Okay, the Sidebander IV is now pretty much complete. Everything's put back together, got all the RF shields back on. The only modification that is done to this radio is the clarifier is unlocked. Other than that, pretty much bone stock radio, other than the electrolytic capacitors have been replaced in it. And a lot of that hokey soldering, which I still haven't figured out what they were trying to accomplish on the bottom side of this board, that's all been taken care of. The only problem it does have, the meter is not functioning. And the meter movement is not stuck. It is burned out, which is rare. In my opinion, probably 95 to 99% of the time in CB radios, at least. No offense to the CB manufacturers, but they are extremely cheap meters, and they tend to bind up. The only thing I can figure is, just from fixing so many of them over the years, I think it's either the metal meter, it's usually like a U-clamp in there that the meter movement's mounted in. Either that warps, or the actual plastic meter housing warps, and that puts stress on that metal bracket. But in any case, the needles bind up. I always tell people, if you don't have extremely good precision screwdrivers and the proper solvent, don't even attempt to get a meter unstuck, because once you strip those almost microscopic little screw heads, there's nothing I can do for you. If you send me the radio and I get it and the meter movement is stuck, I can pretty much guarantee you I can get it unstuck. Now this one is burned out. The problem being, now it does have, as you can see, this kind of an oddball double blue scale. Okay, it's not like your majority of radios, the red and green, or maybe a white background with black and white writing. It's a black background with blue. Normally what I would do if I have an oddball meter like that, if the meter movement is bad, I would just take the lens off, remove the actual meter scale, and then take a brand new meter, slide that meter scale into that meter movement, and install a brand new meter. The problem is, this is an oddball size meter. The width, or not really the width, the height. The width is the same. It's the height from here to here. It's a little bit shorter than a standard meter. I have checked and checked and checked, and every meter that I have is either, because probably 80-90% of your meters that are kind of this size are going to be the same size as, like, let's say, a Uniden Cobra style. Those are about, grab a caliper here. They're probably about, I'm going to say, maybe about that much too big. So, I mean, we're looking at, a little over 1/10 of an inch maybe. It's not much, but it's enough that the meter face will not then stick through the hole in the faceplate. So, and I checked meter movements. The meter movement, the bracket inside is different, because, like I say, I was even considering, well, if I could find a meter movement that I can fit into this housing, I'll just slide the meter movement out and install a new meter movement. Nope, no luck. The bracket in there that the movement mounts to is different than anything I can find. So I'm going to have to do some searching on that and see if I can come up with one. Or if somebody happens to have one, let me know. I'm sure the customer would appreciate it. Other than that, it's a good working radio. It's hooked up to an antenna here. There's a Super Bowl. Actually, not a lot of skip today. Not a cloud in the sky. I mean, it's bright, sunny, lots of humidity, and no skip. It does fade in and out. Oh, there we go. There's somebody on 38 lower. And they're gone just as fast as they were there. Now, there's one pet peeve on this radio. Really nice radios. Fantastic actually AM also, but they're known for, because it's a SBE, or sideband engineers. they're known for making really good sideband radios. This is no exception. Like I said previously, it's basically a inverted or reversed, whatever you want to call it. In my opinion, like a Viking 4740. This would be over here. Everything's on the opposite sides of the radio. Otherwise, pretty much the same, with the addition of the. I forgot to mention that earlier. These two coils do not exist in the Viking 4740s. They're not there. That was one thing that they added for a little bit more, extra fine tuning. But otherwise, like I say, it's pretty much the same. It's just component locations, and they're literally just pretty much a mirror image of each other. Even the PLL module, most of that's pretty much a mirror image. These two holes would be over here. This hole would be here. These two transformers would be, their operations would be flipped. Good crystal filters in them, so they have really good reception. But like I say, my one pet peeve with these, the clarifier. What in God's name were they thinking? For somebody that made, specialized, and even your company name is Sideband Engineers, you would think a sideband person would know that probably the most important, next to the volume control, the most important control on any CB radio that you're going to be using for sideband would be the clarifier. So, this is the volume and RF gain, and this control here is your squelch and your clarifier. Well, common sense would tell you that you would want the clarifier out here. Nah. Somebody was snoozing when they designed this. This is the squelch. The rear is the clarifier. So, in a base station, that's fine. You can look at what you're doing, you can reach back there. But in a mobile environment, you almost have to take your eyes off the road to look down, or you can't just kind of brush your hand against it and grab it. You kind of need it. It's just very inconvenient, and because I'm sure everybody knows, anytime you go to grab one of these rear controls, a lot of times you end up moving your front control. So, yeah, that was, you can see it there, because there's the solid dot, which represents the outside squelch, and the, hollow circle is always represents your rear control, the clarifier. So, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. But in any case, other than that, nice radios. Again, this is also very similar to another radio, actually, made by SBE, and that would be the Sidebander V. That was just a little bit more full-featured radio. One thing that's missing in this that the Sidebander V has is the speech compression circuit. This does not have speech compression. So if you're familiar with SBEs, most of the SBEs have that speech compression circuit, and it works really well. Now, in practical use, do you need it in this radio? No. Honestly, you don't. These are powerhouse little radios. Very well designed. They have really good output power. Matter of fact, let me just go to center of band. Go to 20. The dummy load. We're hooked up to just a regular non-amplified coffin mic. Cobra coffin mic. So nothing special here. And we'll do AM first. So the scope is hooked up to the output from the service master, and then we'll be looking at the power meter. So I'll try and get both of them in the camera at the same time. So that needle, when that needle is dead straight up, it's on the 50 watt scale. So when it's straight up, it's 15 watts. Okay. Audio check. So doing 15 watts swing on AM. Go to sideband. Audio check 1 2. Audio check 1 2. Audio check test 1 2. Audio check 1 2. Audio check audio check 1 2 1 2. So you can see really good sideband. Looks good on a scope. Does 20 watts or more. Like I say, really nice radios. Just a shame, that's the one thing I don't like, is that clarifier. But what are you going to do? Oh, and I got the this control, the band or mode selector switch was about ready to fall out of this thing. And I'd said I was going to take the faceplate off to do that. Yeah, well, that wouldn't have done me any good if I did that anyhow. That's not how you get to this. Another thing, these radios, it kind of sucks if you ever have to change one of these controls. You can't get in there with a standard nut driver or a socket. You need to use a thin wall. Now, luckily, I have a metal lathe, so I just take sockets. I've made my own really thin wall sockets over the years. But what you have to do is, because the controls are actually mounted to this plastic faceplate, they either mounted all the controls and then installed this decal, which is actually a piece of aluminum. It's not like it's a sticker. It's actually, embossed aluminum, because this is actually where you see the aluminum shiny here. That's actually, depressed in, so it's actually an embossed aluminum faceplate. But I don't know if they installed all of the controls, everything into this front faceplate, tightened the nuts, and then installed the faceplate, or if they did like I do, you have to get, but you can see there's a felt washer in there, and what that is to prevent dust from getting in. So what you have to do is, like I say, it's not like a normal radio where you take the plastic faceplate off and there's a metal chassis behind it. You actually have to pull this little felt guy out, okay, and I'll shove that back in when I'm done. But you have to take that felt washer off. You can see the nut in there, but you can see how tight the clearance is. A normal nut driver or socket, yeah, forget it. Unless it's extremely thin wall, you're never going to get in there. Now, you can get in there with needle nose pliers, but or tweezers or something. The problem is you're going to end up bending or breaking the tips off of your pliers trying to do that. So you need like I say, a really thin wall socket to get in there. But I had the tools to make my own tools, so no problem there. So let me get it put completely together so you can actually see what this thing looks like and how nice the actual cabinet is for this.
And keep a black flag. Say, I'm going to ease out, Captain Eagle. You might put that stick on me, and I'm in Louisiana. Timekeeper, take care of love to the family. Happy Father's Day to you. Speak loud. Delaware, I'm right around.
Yeah, it's so faint you can barely hear them. Yeah, the skip cometh and the skip goeth away. The only thing barreling through is the Super Bowl. Channel 11. But, yep, like I say. So there you can see it's in really nice condition. Really no scratches at all in the metal cover. The paint is in almost perfect condition. There are a few tiny little specks in the bezel. You can see right there is a little tiny spot there. But otherwise, a very nice example of an SBE Sidebander IV. So now the hunt begins to see if I can find this customary meter.